Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Kristen, and I serve as one of the good doctors of Abbey Research. And this series is called Welcome to My World. At Abbey Research, we are empathy educators who believe deeply in the idea that we could all get along just a little bit more cohesively if we learned to ask questions and listen more deeply. And this series is in service of that. I have this great privilege of talking to fascinating folks who are not me, and you get to eavesdrop on them as we learn a little bit about their lives in the hopes that they can tell us a little bit about ourselves in a way, as we all figure out how to do this thing called humanity a little bit better than we currently are. So today I am absolutely delighted to be joined by Siobhan Colleen, who is a SoCal native with a wild career trajectory, and that's what we're going to get into today. From a stagehand to a rigger, a project manager to confined space rescue instructor. I don't even know what that is. She's your woman if you need to know how to safely evacuate from a 300-foot tall wind turbine that is on fire. And I mean, I know I always need one of those in my back pocket. So I'm real glad to have met Siobhan. Now she serves as the CEO and founder of an educational tech startup called Industry Explorers, which I cannot wait to hear about. And they are on a mission to empower high school students to discover the career of their dreams. Siobhan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is fun.
This is so rad. I am so excited. But before I mean, I have a million questions about wind turbines that catch on fire, but really what we're here to talk about is teenagers. So help me understand what started this incredible company you've got going on.
A lot of moments in my life kind of led up to this moment. I've always been really passionate about kids. I used to teach karate to kids all the way from 4 to 54 and up. So, I love them. They're hilarious. Kids of all ages. They each, depending on what age they're in, they have their own set of problems their own set of challenges that they're working through, and they're developing their sense of self and their sense of identity through each stage. And it's really fascinating to see. So for a long time, I knew that I've always wanted to continue helping children. And I think one of the most pivotal moments in a person's life is actually when they're in maybe middle school, but definitely in high school, when they are trying to figure out what they want to do for the rest of their lives. And, it might be a little unfair for adults to be asking that of teenagers. Hey, you only have 16 years in this world or so. Figure out what you want to do for the next 50 years or so. No, that's not fair at all. So I remember being in high school and having so many different interests. I didn't know if I wanted to be an engineer or if I wanted to get into theater or if I wanted to get into business. And also a lot of people were pushing college onto me. They were, counselors, parents, teachers, everything was all about college. Nobody talked about alternative paths. So fast forward to college, and by my sophomore year, my professor said, hey, you should apply for a job at the Disneyland Resort. And it wasn't just a food or merchandise type job. It was a job within the field that I was studying at school.
Okay.
And I said, shouldn't I wait until after I graduate? He said, why? Oh, I don't know. I guess I'll do it.
Yeah.
So several months go by. And by my junior year of college, I got accepted at a position at the Disneyland Resort with technical services. And so at that point, I mean, first of all, I'm super excited. But at the same time, I was thinking, I thought this was the goal when I graduated. I haven't even graduated from college and I've already got like this super awesome career. Did I even need this degree? Why am I even still going to school? Like I can quit right now and just continue working at Disneyland. So I didn't quit, but I did consider changing my major several times because I thought, again, I'm already doing the thing in my field. Why do I want to continue getting a theater degree if clearly I didn't need it? But I also didn't want to stay in school longer than I needed to. So I ended up not changing my major. Although if I did, it would have been in engineering. So that's just another one of those things that influenced my decision. And through my career as a rigger in the entertainment sector, as someone who has a rope access certification, a global wind organization certification, first aid certification, all these different certifications. In our industry, in entertainment, we have the ETCP. I have my arena rigger certification. So I've got all these certifications, and those have served me more than my actual college degree. So that's another thing that inspired me to do Industry Explorers. So right now what Industry Explorers is we're raising brand awareness so people want to tune into our stuff and learn something from our live streams and podcast episodes. I have guests who come in to talk about their industry and their careers and what certifications or education is important to be in that career. So there's more than just college. There's more options than just college. And if you know you want to go to college, but you're not sure what you want to major in, you know, it's this decision is so personal. It may benefit you to just go to college as an undecided major and figure it out while you're there. That might not sit well for some other people, especially if you don't want to spend the money trying to figure it out. You don't want to spend money kind of gambling, hoping you'll figure it out once you're there. And sometimes people get to college, some people study and they become doctors, lawyers, and once they start practicing, they then discover it's not what they wanted. So again, this whole journey, it's so personal, but and if you don't know, if you think you want to go to college but you're not sure what you want to major in, there are so many alternative paths that you can take. You can be a rope access technician and go get that certification for $2,000 and then just start going on all these job sites, and you'll see a very quick return on your investment. That's my first example that comes to mind, just because that's the world that I live in. But it just depends on like what your interests are, what kind of certifications are in that field, and can you attain those certs?
I think that's so important because I loved school. School was really good for me. It's the I have an undergraduate degree, then 2 masters and a PhD. And so I was in school from 3 to 33, really.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the environment like I happen to like the best. Whereas my brother didn't finish college and is 0% ashamed by that and got so much more on the job training. And we're grateful for the couple business classes he sat in on because they definitely helped shape his brain. And it wouldn't have been a bad thing if he had stayed and gotten a full business degree because we own a company together, and I would have loved it if he knew a little bit more about accounting than I did. But there are a lot of different pathways. And I think when folks talk to our family, they assume that we're going to be really, I'm going to say, especially like, well, everybody has to go to college. And I don't believe that at all. And the system is so set up for an assumption that higher education can be really beneficial for everybody, which is not true. And the money that we're charging, as you brought up, it doesn't allow for the original intent of higher education, which was a space to ask questions and a space to learn how to ask questions. Well, you can't learn how to ask questions super well if you're then going to be under $100,000 in debt for the rest of your life. Like it's not fit for purpose anymore. And so I love conversations like yours where it's like, well, hey, you know what? School also isn't going anywhere. If you want to do this and chase it, and then you wake up when you're 30 and you're like, you know what I really want to do is social work. Well, then cool. Social work school will be there because there are definitely some professions that need beyond a certification. They need more hands-on training. But developmentally asking 16, 17-year-olds to know what the hell they're going to do is just unkind sometimes. Like
it is.
My undergraduate degree is in youth work, and I love working with youth and I love teaching. And now I'm I'm an internship supervisor and I love it. And I can see a path in all 5 of the various professions that I've done, but it's who I thought I was at 17 and who I'm sitting here as at 37 are related, but also wildly different. And to allow space for kids to figure that out, I think is really, really important. So in the live streams, is it a lot of like, hey, just this is how I got where I am, and I want you to know that my path is good, but here's other paths you can take? Is it that kind of vibe?
The live stream is very focused on the career and the
Okay.
industry that it's within.
Okay.
The podcast is more focused on the individual and that person's pathway to their career, because that is just, you can have two people who are in biology, but their paths to get there are going to be vastly different. And even what they do within that space is going to be vastly different.
Yeah.
In on social media, if you're following coaches and marketers, a lot of people are going to talk about finding your niche, finding your niche, finding your niche. And anybody can do that. My niche, if I were to take a telescope and I were to have this like very, very wide view of the world, my world, welcome to my world, it would be entertainment, the entertainment sector. That includes live events, that includes broadcasting, that includes concerts, trade shows, anything that you have in a ballroom, a corporate event, or anything of that matter. Touring productions, circuses, magic shows, like everything. That's entertainment. Okay. So zoom in, there's the technical and the production aspect of entertainment. So you have your artists, but then you've got people who make everything else work. The automation, the rigging, the lights, audio, video, projections. Did I say automation? That's a big one. I might as well say it twice.
Yeah, fair.
So then I zoom in more,
Mhm.
and my specialty is in rigging. That's everything that so rigging is the truss, it's the wire rope and the shackles, and it's everything above the lights and the rest of the equipment, because that's what everything hangs off of. So my job, I'm responsible for hanging thousands of pounds over performers, crew members, audience members, etc. Now, even within rigging, I still found a little niche. I still kept digging further and further. What we use a lot in rigging is called fall protection. If you're climbing, whether you're 10 feet off the ground or 100 feet off the ground, you have to wear fall protection. That's your anchor points, that's your body harness, your connectors, your descenders. It's like industrial rock climbing. Rock climbing, like some of the gear is kind of the same, but not really. It's like it's like recreational climbing on steroids. For example, rock climbers, they have the sit-in harness, which is just from the waist down. An industrial harness also includes the over-the-head shoulder straps. So I won't get
Okay, okay.
like all the nerdy aspects of why that is. But I wanted to learn more about fall protection. And part of the reason for that is I made an ass of myself in a class one time. And when the instructor rightfully called me out on my cockiness, I thought, whoa, I don't know a lot. There's so much that I have yet to learn. So, especially with this equipment that is meant to save my life, I better be using it properly. So I did a project for school, learning as much as I could about fault protection and rescue. And then I discovered this thing called suspension trauma, air quotes, suspension trauma, which is it's basically your body's physiological response to sitting like being suspended in your harness in an upright position. There's a lot to talk about there, but when I was doing that project and like really learning more and more about fall protection and rescue, that was also something that I did research on. And I have a YouTube video. It's a 15-minute presentation when I was in college about suspension trauma. I called it prolonged harness. No, what did I call it? Prolonged harness suspension, or prolonged suspension from a harness, something like that, because suspension trauma isn't always the most accurate term. Anyway, enough rambling about that.
Well, no, that's completely fascinating. So like I love theater and I did theater for a long time, but like on high school level, and I was always on
Yeah.
stage. So the like y'all backstage magicians were always incredible to me. Like I don't know how to make Peter Pan fly, but somebody else did. And like I love that.
And funny, making performers fly, that's a whole other niche that people can get into. I don't do it that I don't think I've ever really done it. No, I take that back, kind of. Um, but it's not my specialty within rigging. There are other people who are like, I would say, subject matter experts in
Okay.
just performer flying. And then there are people who are subject matter experts in making performers and objects or scenery fly. And it's funny because people think about, you know, performers and backstage stagehands like in a theater setting. But Lady Gaga had to fly during her Super Bowl performance.
For sure. I think Pink flies into most of
Pink
her
flies.
like
That's
tours.
her
Yeah, like
tour, and she had I think it's 6 or 9 points of axes
not
or 6
surprising.
or
She's an
9 winches
overachiever.
that like in different parts of the arena that take her around the arena, and her she's got a specialty harness that allows her to, you know, do even more movement, more axes of motion. Yeah, so again, like that's another niche, automated rigging. So there's so many things that you can get into. So like when it comes to whatever it is you're interested in, there's always going to be more to discover. There's always going to be more to learn. You just it sounds it sounds silly to say out loud, but just follow your passion, you
And I
know?
think that's so. What I was really struck by as you were talking is that I've always thought that theater, even more than sports, is a really great example of how you absolutely cannot accomplish anything by yourself. And
Oh,
the
accurate.
the myth of the solo performer, the myth of the solo genius is so damaging. And
Mhm.
to make anything happen, really, there's so many of us. And I love that this is one of the gifts that you're giving to kids, even subconsciously. Like, look at all of these, you know, videos we have just in entertainment, and look at how many different people it takes to make Sam Wilson fly in Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's like, you know, some probably around 100 people, including special effects folks.
That's
And for
that's
like
stunt rigging, which is a
stunt
different
rigging, and
niche in
exactly, like
rigging.
that's totally different. And it's not just Anthony Mackie up there, it's Anthony Mackie and his 2 different stunt doubles. Like, there's all of this kind of stuff. And it's incredibly, I think the most important thing that us olds can impart upon the youths is that your life is written in pencil, and you're
Oh yeah.
allowed to erase it and write it in different colors whenever you want, and that no one does anything by themselves. And so asking for help and asking more questions and chasing well, this could be really fun for a couple months isn't as damaging as like Hallmark movies want you to think they are. Like, they're actually,
Mhm.
we're all doing it. Just for a long time, people did it within the same corporation, so it didn't look like experimentation. It looked like career advancement. But all career advancement is experimentation. And we now have unfortunately, some of the social safety net has been ripped away. So it feels scarier to do it. But it's no different than humans have been doing it forever.
Definitely. Everybody needs somebody in order to succeed. Even if you see someone who's seemingly riding solo, they have a team of people who are helping them, who elevate them. And what you see is just what's at face value. There's so much more that happens behind the scenes, whether it's for a celebrity or a business executive or even a coach, even a wellness coach, or just anything, and any from the micro influencer scale all the way to the celebrity scale, I suppose. But you know, and I love what you said about asking for help, because nobody does it alone. And they if it looks like they do, or they kind of make it seem like they do, they might be insecure, because everybody's got a team, and you got to love your team when it
Completely
comes
agree.
to
And like, if somebody
asking.
is out there claiming credit for a whole lot of things, you don't want to be in
Yeah.
that person's circle. Like, that's a really good, to
Yeah.
me, measure of, oh, that's not somebody I want to know or do life with. Um, and you're right that it's insecurity, but like, for me, it's one of those red flags of like, I can't be doing things with this folk
Oh,
because it's just not
definitely.
going to go well for me. So
Yeah. Yeah. If you're gonna, if anybody listening to this is going to ask for help or try to seek out a mentor,
mhm.
I highly, highly encourage that you ask multiple people, and you can have more than one mentor. I don't know if it's just me, but when I think of mentorship, I tend to think it's a one-on-one relationship, but you can have more than one mentor. And I highly encourage that you do, because you don't want to rely on one person as the end all be all for your skills development and your source of knowledge. You need to be able to reach out to more than one person. And this is why this is so important, because if the one person who does agree to mentor you ends up being a narcissist, they will be psychologically abusive. And yes, you can be abused, not verbally or physically. You can be psychologically abused. And that's another thing that has inspired Industry Explorers is I want to create a safe platform for people to discover different things about the world, without having to be subjected to maybe someone's overbearingness.
I love
Someone
that. And I think
who,
that's really important is that,
yeah.
again, like those of us who have had the privilege of seeing a lot of facets of the world,
Hmm.
whenever I talk to folks like you, and we have a lot of parallel kind of passions and story pieces of our story, what it comes back to so often for a lot of us is safety, is an idea of
Yes.
how do I create an emotionally safe space for people to grow, because
Yeah.
we often weren't given that gift. Or we thought something was great and we stumbled into something that was really traumatic. And our response to that is, okay, well, the lessons I learned were incredible, but I want to create a space where people don't have to learn those lessons with as many tears as I went through. And so how do we create that? And I love that that's one of your instincts for Industry Explorers. I think that's really, really beautiful.
Yeah. And back on the mentorship thing, if you have a mentor and if they are talking crap about everyone behind their back, or if they talk crap about anyone behind their back, that that's a red flag. If they are if they elevate themselves to make it seem like they are the end all be all, they make it seem like it's their way or the highway, or they're the only people who seem to do anything right and everyone else is a moron, that is a red flag. If you start to notice that you are being isolated from your colleagues, again, and it goes back to the whole talking crap thing, oh, why were you talking to so and so over there? They don't know anything. Let me teach you the right way. Like, that's a red flag. Don't.
Mm-hmm.
You should
Mm-hmm.
get a new mentor. And it can seem scary. It can seem scary because you're like, oh man, I just got my foot in the door. I don't know anybody else. And who's going to want to teach me? I don't want to mess this up. There are plenty of people who are going to want to help you. If you have an eagerness to learn and you are great to work with, you're going to find another mentor. It's okay. Don't subject yourself to any sort of abuse. Have respect for yourself and start developing that sense of respect now, whether you're in middle school or high school, or if post high school, you're an adult listening to this, your career changer, it doesn't matter. Just develop your sense of self-respect, because nobody deserves to be wronged by another human. It's horrible.
That is the absolute perfect place to end our conversation here. I love that wisdom that you just gave both my listeners and anybody else who stumbles on this. It's really important to remember that your calling and your passions are yours, and they're
Mhm.
not for other people to make fun of or to judge. They may be helped by shaping, but they are never helped by shaming. And so finding that navigation in yourself is really, really important, and knowing who you are as you move into it. Siobhan, thank you so much for joining me. This was a fascinating conversation. I'm so excited by the work that you're doing, and I wish that there had been something like this when I was going through high school, trying to figure out what college was going to look like for me. Friends, if anything Siobhan has said has resonated, or you want to get involved with Industry Explorers in any way, shape, or form, the links to do so are going to be underneath this YouTube video. If you enjoyed our conversation, then please feel free to give it a thumbs up. It really does help. That the YouTube algorithm owns us all, and they really like those thumbs up. If you like this conversation, I have a lot more like it. So make sure to subscribe to the channel and follow all of our empathy education endeavors as we try to help all of us understand our fellow humans just a little bit better. So again, Siobhan, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I will see you all next time on Welcome to My World.